In a mansion so vast it swallowed sound, Isaac Langford had spent a decade collecting everything money could purchase, except the one thing he secretly craved. Someone who looked at him and didn't see the fortune first. Then Susana Reyes arrived with her quiet hands, her steady gaze, and the habit of leaving small kindnesses in corners he never thought anyone noticed. Until the day he realized the only thing missing from his perfect, empty life was already cleaning his floors. If you've ever felt invisible in a room full of people, or invisible even when you're the only one who matters, stay with me. This story might remind you that sometimes the person who sees you clearest is the one society told you to overlook. Drop a single in the comments right now if you're ready for a slow burn love that starts in silence and ends in forever. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. If you're tuned in and ready to dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So, let's get started. The Langford estate sat on 32 acres of manicured Connecticut hillside like a crown nobody had the courage to steal. White stone, black iron gates, floor-to-ceiling glass that reflected nothing but sky and wealth. Inside, silence ruled. Not peaceful silence. The kind that presses against your eardrums until you start hearing your own heartbeat. Isaac Langford preferred it that way. 39. 6'3". Dark hair clipped military short. Eyes the color of storm clouds over slate. Net worth hovered around $17 billion, mostly from Langford Dynamics, the defense software firm he'd built from a dorm room prototype after his father tried and failed to bankrupt the family name in the 2008 crash. Isaac had clawed it back, tripled it, then quadrupled it. He did not celebrate anniversaries. He did not forgive. He also did not keep staff longer than 18 months. Most left because the pay was obscene but the atmosphere Arctic. Housekeepers, chefs, groundskeepers, they came, they worked, they collected six-figure bonuses, and they vanished when the chill finally seeped into their bones. Susana Reyes was different. She arrived on a Tuesday in late March, recommended by an agency that specialized in discreet, long-term domestic placement. 31 years old, 5'4" on a good day. Dark hair always pulled into a low, practical bun. Brown eyes that held steady even when spoken to sharply. References impeccable. One personal note from her last employer, an elderly widow in Greenwich. Susana doesn't just clean houses. She cares for them. Isaac had skimmed the file, signed the contract without meeting her, and forgotten her name by dinner. That first morning she let herself in at 5:45 a.m. using the service code. The security system logged her entry but did not wake him. She moved through the lower level like a shadow with purpose, dusting baseboards, polishing the black granite island in the kitchen, starting coffee exactly 37 minutes before his alarm. Black. No sugar. 1 drop of oat milk. She'd read the briefing memo. By 7:12 she had moved upstairs. Isaac emerged from his bedroom suite at 7:18 wearing charcoal joggers and a plain white t-shirt, hair still damp from the shower. He never acknowledged staff unless something was wrong. That morning nothing was wrong. He passed her in the hallway. She was on her knees polishing the brass kickplate on his office door. Head down, earbuds in, humming softly, something old Latin, almost sacred. He paused. She didn't notice. He watched for 4 seconds. Long enough to register the small gold cross necklace that slipped forward when she leaned, the faint scent of lavender soap clinging to her uniform, the way her fingers moved with care over metal that hadn't been touched in years. Then he continued to his office. She never looked up. That became the pattern. Susana arrived before dawn, left after dusk. She cleaned what needed cleaning, restocked what needed restocking, and disappeared like breath on glass. She never asked for praise, never lingered, never complained when he left coffee rings on the walnut desk or tracked mud across marble he'd paid 6 figures to import from Carrara. But she noticed things. When he came home at 2:14 a.m. after a 17-hour negotiation in Dubai via Red Eye, she had left a small ceramic bowl of sliced apples and almond butter on the kitchen island. No note, just the food. He ate it standing up, staring at the bowl like it had personally offended him. The next night she left chamomile tea in a thermos beside his bed. Still warm when he found it at 3:47 am, he drank it, didn't comment. A week later he found the medicine cabinet in his bathroom restocked with the exact ibuprofen he preferred. Gel caps, not tablets, and a new box of the blue light-blocking glasses he'd mentioned once in passing to his assistant. He stared at the shelf for 30 seconds, then closed the door. He began to notice her patterns. She always left the East Wing library last. She dusted the shelves in alphabetical order, fiction first, then nonfiction, then the rare first editions he kept locked behind glass. She never touched the books themselves unless they were visibly out of place. When she did, she wore white cotton gloves. She played music quietly while she worked, classical mostly, sometimes choral. Once he caught the faint strains of something Filipino, Kundiman, he later learned. Drifting from the guest wing she was airing out, he never asked her to stop. One Thursday in April, he came down with the flu. He didn't tell anyone. He simply locked himself in the master suite, cancelled meetings, and suffered in silence like he always had. At 8:22 p.m. a soft knock sounded. He ignored it. Another knock, gentler. Mr. Langford? Susanna's voice. Calm. Not alarmed. I'm fine. He croaked through the door at a pause. I left chicken soup and ginger tea outside. There's a cool cloth too. If you need anything else, I'll be downstairs until 10. He didn't answer. She left. 89:41 he opened the door. Tray on the floor. Porcelain bowl. Steam still rising. Fresh ginger sliced thin. A folded linen napkin. A single white daisy tucked beside the spoon. He carried it inside. Ate every drop. Slept better than he had in months. The next morning he found her in the kitchen folding laundry. His laundry. Into precise stacks. He stood in the doorway. She looked up. Their eyes met for the first time since her interview 6 weeks earlier. You didn't have to do that, he said. Voice rough from fever. I know. She folded a towel in half. But you were sick. I've been sick before. I know that too. He stared. She didn't flinch. I'm not going anywhere unless you fire me, she said quietly. So you might as well let me help. Something shifted in his chest. Small, tectonic. He nodded once, turned, walked away. But he didn't fire her, and he started coming home earlier. Not every night. Just earlier. One evening in May he arrived at 7:03 p.m. Almost normal person hours. The house smelled of rosemary and roasted garlic. Susanna was in the dining room setting a single place at the 12-foot mahogany table. He stopped in the archway. You cooked. She straightened. You haven't eaten anything but protein shakes in 3 days. I made lamb chops, mashed potatoes, asparagus. Nothing fancy. He looked at the plate, then at her. You don't have to. I wanted to. A beat. He Saturday she didn't hover. She went back to the kitchen, wiped counters, started the dishwasher. He ate slowly. When he finished he carried the plate to the sink himself. She looked surprised. Thank you, he said. She smiled, small, real. You're welcome, Mr. Langford. Isaac. Her brows lifted slightly. When we're alone, he added. Isaac. She nodded once. Susanna. He already knew her name, but hearing her say it, soft, steady, felt like permission. That night he couldn't sleep. He walked the east corridor at 1:14 a.m. found her in the library. She was sitting cross-legged on the Persian rug, reading by the light of a single brass lamp. One of his father's old aeronautics journals, yellowed pages, marginal notes in fountain pen. She looked up. No guilt. No scramble. You're awake, she said. So are you. Couldn't sleep. This book. It's beautiful. The sketches. The handwriting. He stepped closer. That was my father's. I figured. She closed it carefully. He loved planes. He loved winning more. She studied him. You don't talk about him. There's nothing worth saying. She set the book on the side table. Sometimes the things worth saying are the hardest ones. He sat on the opposite end of the rug, 3 feet away. Still a gulf. I was 23 when he died, he said. Heart attack. Left me the company. And a mountain of debt disguised as opportunity. My mother left 6 months later. Said she couldn't live in a museum. Susanna listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't even take the jewelry, he continued. Just walked out. I haven't spoken to her since. That's a long time to carry silence. He looked at her. Really looked. You don't judge. I don't know enough to judge. He exhaled. You're the first person who's ever said that to me. She gave a small shrug. Most people want to be right. I just want to understand. Another silence. This one felt different. Not heavy. Not empty. Shared. He stood. Good night, Susanna. Good night, Isaac. He left the library. But he left the door open behind him. And for the first time in 10 years, the mansion didn't feel quite so hollow. If the quiet tension, the small kindnesses, and that first real Isaac already have you hooked, drop your thoughts below. One word, one feeling, one moment that stood out. I read every comment. The summer arrived in Connecticut like a slow, humid promise. Long golden evenings, cicadas screaming in the trees, thunderheads building every afternoon only to collapse into brief, violent rain. Inside the Langford estate the air stayed exactly 68 degrees, filtered, scentless. But something had shifted. Not loudly, not obviously. Just enough that Isaac noticed Susanna's presence before he noticed his own breathing. He started finding excuses to be home. A cancelled flight to London. A video call rescheduled. A headache that conveniently appeared at 4:30 p.m. on a Thursday in July. He told himself it was efficiency. The house was quiet. The Wi-Fi was faster than any hotel's. Nothing more. But he knew better. That Thursday he walked into the kitchen at 6:12 p.m. and found Susanna at the island, sleeves rolled to her elbows, chopping herbs with the kind of focused rhythm that made the knife look like an extension of her hand. Basil, parsley, a little thyme. The scent rose sharp and green. She glanced up. No startle, just a small nod. You're early. Meeting ended ahead of schedule. She returned to the cutting board. I was going to leave chicken marinating for tomorrow, but since you're here, would you like dinner tonight? He hesitated only for a second. Yes. She didn't smile triumphantly, just wiped her hands on a towel and pulled a cast-iron skillet from the lower cabinet. Sit, she said. It'll be ready in 20. He didn't sit at the dining table. He pulled out one of the stools at the island instead, 3 feet from where she worked. Close enough to watch, far enough to pretend it was casual. She moved with economy, seasoned the chicken, heated oil until it shimmered, added the thighs skin side down. The sizzle filled the room like a sigh. She didn't speak, didn't fill the silence with chatter, just worked. He watched her hands. Small scars on 2 knuckles, old burns probably. A thin silver ring on her right pinky. No stone, just a simple band worn smooth. She wore no makeup. Her hair was escaping the bun in soft wisps at her temples. She looked real. In a house full of things designed to look perfect, she was the only thing that felt alive. When the chicken was browning, she deglazed the pan with white wine, scraped up the fond, added stock, lemon, capers. The sauce reduced while she boiled orecchiette in a separate pot. She tasted once, eyes half closed, then added a pinch more salt. He realized he was staring. She caught him. Something wrong? No, he cleared his throat. It smells good. High praise from the man who usually eats takeout from Luke's at midnight. He gave a half smile, the closest thing to humor he allowed himself. You've been paying attention. I clean your trash cans. I notice things. Another silence. Not uncomfortable. Curious. She plated the food, 2 plates, not one. Set one in front of him, the other beside it. Sat on the stool next to his. Not across. Not subservi. Just next to. He looked at the second plate. You're eating with me? If that's all right. He nodded once. They ate in quiet for the first few minutes. The chicken was perfect. Crisp skin, bright sauce, pasta al dente. He hadn't tasted anything this good in years. Halfway through she spoke. My grandmother taught me this recipe. She used to say capers were God's way of reminding us life should have a little bite. He looked at her. Your grandmother still alive? Yes. She's in Manila now. Small apartment in Quiapo. I send money every month. She still cooks for the neighbors even though her hands shake. You support her. Mostly. She raised me after my parents. She stopped, shook her head. Long story. Not tonight. He didn't push. Instead he said, I never knew my grandparents. My father's parents died before I was born. Mother's side. They cut contact when she married down. Susanna tilted her head. Down? She was a senator's daughter. He was a mechanic who became an engineer. They eloped. Her family never forgave her. That's sad. It was practical. They got what they wanted, distance. She studied him. You sound like you understand. I do. They finished eating. She started to clear the plates. He stood. Took his own to the sink. You don't have to. I know. She let him. They stood side by side at the double sink. She washed. He dried. The domesticity of it felt obscene in its simplicity. A billionaire drying dishes beside his maid. And yet it felt right. When the last plate was stacked, she turned off the faucet. Thank you for dinner, he said. You're welcome. A beat. Then, because the question had been burning in him for weeks, he asked, Why do you stay? She dried her hands slowly. Most people ask why I took the job, not why I stay. I'm asking why you stay. She looked at him, really looked. Because you're lonely, she said simply. And I know what lonely feels like. And because every time I think about leaving, I remember the way you looked at that daisy I left when you were sick. Like no one had ever done anything kind for you before. And I can't walk away from that. His throat tightened. That's dangerous, he said quietly. Caring, seeing someone clearly. She gave a small, sad smile. Maybe, but I'd rather be dangerous than blind. He didn't know what to say to that, so he didn't say anything. He just stood there, inches from her, feeling the heat of her body in the cool kitchen air. Then his phone buzzed sharp, insistent. He glanced at the screen. Victoria, his cousin, the only family member who still called. He silenced it. Susanna noticed. You can take it. I don't want to. She searched his face. Then don't. The phone buzzed again. He powered it off. Completely. For the first time in a decade, Isaac Langford turned his phone off at 8:47 p.m. on a Thursday. They moved to the living room, informal one, not the formal parlor with the uncomfortable antiques. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the dark lawn. One lamp glowed low. She sat on the sectional. He sat at the opposite end, still a careful distance. She tucked her legs under her. Tell me something no one else knows, she said. He exhaled through his nose. I keep my father's old flight jacket in the attic. I haven't looked at it since the funeral. But I pay someone to dust it every month. Why? Because if I throw it away, he's really gone. And if I look at it, I have to remember he chose the company over me. She nodded slowly. My secret, she said after a moment. I write poetry. In a notebook I keep under my mattress at my apartment. Terrible poems. About stars and grief and hands that don't know how to hold anything gently. I've never shown anyone. Will you show me? Someday. Maybe. Another silence. Then she asked very softly, Are you afraid of me? He looked at her, startled. No, liar. He laughed, short, surprised. Why would I be afraid of you? Because I see you, and you're not used to being seen. He didn't deny it. Instead he moved, one slow slide along the couch, until only a foot separated them. I'm not used to wanting to be seen, he corrected. Her breath caught. He lifted a hand, hesitated, then brushed the back of his knuckles along her cheek. Barely touching. She didn't pull away. His thumb traced the line of her jaw. You should go home, he said hoarsely. It's late. I should. Neither moved. Lightning flashed outside, silent, distant. Thunder followed seconds later. The lights flickered once, then went out. Complete darkness. The backup generator should have kicked in within 7 seconds. It didn't. Susanna laughed, soft, surprised. Power's out. Apparently. He felt her shift closer. Isaac? Yes. Don't move. I'm not. Her hand found his in the dark. Fingers threading through his. They sat like that, hands clasped, breathing in sync, while the storm rolled closer. When lightning flashed again, he saw her face. Eyes wide, lips parted, unafraid that he leaned in. She met him halfway. The kiss was slow, careful, searching. Her mouth was soft, warm, tasted faintly of lemon and capers and something uniquely her. His free hand cupped the back of her neck, gentle, reverent. She sighed against him. The lights flickered back on. They parted slowly, breathing uneven. She looked at him like she was memorizing every line of his face. "That," she whispered. "Wasn't nothing," he finished. "No," he rested his forehead against hers. "I don't know what I'm doing," he admitted. "Neither do I. But I don't want to stop." She smiled, small, trembling. "Then don't." Outside, the rain began an earnest, hard, steady, cleansing. Inside the mansion, two people who had spent years avoiding touch sat holding hands like teenagers at their first dance. And for the first time in forever, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt full. Dangerously, beautifully full. If that first kiss in the dark, the power outage, the hand-holding while the storm raged outside, if any of it made your heart do that little flip, tell me in the comments below. The kiss in the dark didn't end the storm. Started 1.4 the next 3 weeks, the mansion felt smaller. The hallways narrower. The silences louder. Every room carried the memory of that night. The flicker of lightning on Susanna's face. The way her fingers had tightened in his. The taste of possibility that neither of them could unlearn. Isaac tried to go back to normal. He scheduled 14-hour days. Flew to Frankfurt for 48 hours. Buried himself in due diligence for a $2.4 billion acquisition of a Norwegian cybersecurity firm. He told himself the distance would clarify things. That proximity had been the problem. That if he stayed away long enough, the ache in his chest would dull into something manageable. That it didn't. He found himself checking the security feed from his hotel suite at 2 a.m. Berlin time. Just to see her moving through the East Wing, dusting shelves she'd dusted the day before. He watched her pause sometimes, press 2 fingers to her lips like she was remembering the kiss, then shake her head and keep working. He closed the app every time. Opened it again 5 minutes later. Susanna, meanwhile, kept showing up at 5:45 a.m. She cleaned. She cooked. She left small things. A fresh lavender sachet in his pillowcase, the newspaper folded to the science section because he'd once mentioned liking the quantum computing articles, chamomile tea thermos on nights he came home late. She never asked when he'd be back. Never texted. Never demanded explanation. But she stopped eating dinner with him. When he walked in at 8:19 p.m. and found 2 plates set, one at the island, one untouched in the warmer, she would smile politely, say, "Good evening, Mr. Langford," and disappear upstairs to finish the guest suites. That he hated the formality, that he hated more that he hadn't earned the right to ask for anything different. One Tuesday in late August he came home early. Deliberately. 6:03 p.m. The sky was still bright, cicadas still loud. He found her in the conservatory, watering the orchids she'd insisted on reviving after years of neglect. She wore the usual gray uniform, but her sleeves were pushed up, a smudge of potting soil on her cheek. She looked up when his shadow fell across the glass door. "You're early again. I canceled Paris." Her brows lifted slightly. "Everything okay?" "No," she set the watering can down. He stepped inside. The air smelled of damp earth and green things. "I can't do this," he said. "Do what?" "Pretend the kiss didn't happen. Pretend I don't think about it every time I close my eyes. Pretend I don't want." He stopped, ran a hand over his face. "I don't know how to do this, Susanna. I don't know how to want someone and not ruin them." She studied him for a long moment. Then she walked over, slow, deliberate, and stopped just out of reach. "You're not ruining me by wanting me," she said quietly. "You're only hurting me by pretending you don't." He exhaled sharply. "I'm your employer. You're also the man who turned his phone off in the middle of a thunderstorm, so we could sit in the dark holding hands." Another beat. "I could fire you," he said, half warning, half plea. "Make this easier." "You could," she agreed. "But you won't." "How do you know?" "Because you're scared, not cruel." He looked away, toward the orchids, the glass ceiling, anywhere but her eyes. "I don't want to lose you," he admitted, voice rough. But I don't know how to keep you without breaking every rule I've lived by. She stepped closer, close enough he could smell the lavender on her skin. Then stop living by those rules, she whispered. Just for a minute. Be here. With me. No titles. No contracts. Just Isaac and Susanna. He met her gaze, and something cracked. Wide open, he closed the distance in one step, cupped her face with both hands, and kissed her like a man who'd been starving for years and finally found water. She kissed him back. Fierce, honest, unafraid hands slid into hair, bodies pressed close. The watering can tipped over. Neither cared. Water pooled on the slate floor around their feet. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against his chest. We can't keep doing this in corners, she murmured. I know. We need to talk about what this is. I know. She pulled back just enough to look up at him. I'm not asking for promises you can't make. I'm asking for honesty. If this is just curiosity or loneliness or something that'll burn out when the newness fades. Tell me now. I can survive honest goodbye. I can't survive being your secret. He brushed his thumb along her cheek, smearing the soil smudge instead of wiping it away. You're not a secret, he said. You're the only real thing in this house. Her eyes shimmered. Then prove it. How? Start small. Have dinner with me, not as employer and employee, as two people who want to be in the same room. No disappearing upstairs. No Mr. Langford. Just us. He nodded. That night they ate at the island. Pasta primavera she'd thrown together from what was in the fridge. No candles. No formality. Just forks clinking, quiet laughter when sauce dripped on his shirt. Her teasing him about being a messy eater for a man worth billions. After dinner they walked the grounds. Past the reflecting pool, under the willow that drooped over the stone bench. She slipped her hand into his. He laced their fingers without hesitation. They talked. About her childhood in a cramped apartment in Jersey City, her mother working double shifts as a nurse, her father leaving when she was 7, the way she learned to make a home feel safe even when money was tight. About his years at MIT. Sleeping in the lab because the dorm felt too empty, building the first prototype of what became Langford Dynamics while everyone else partied. About fears. Hers. Ending up alone like her grandmother. Loved but always waiting for someone to leave. His. That anyone who got close would only want what he could provide. Never who he was. They didn't kiss again that night. They didn't need to. The touching hands, shoulders, the brush of her hair against his arm, was enough. But the world outside the gates didn't stay quiet. Victoria called 3 days later. She'd seen the security logs. Isaac home early, repeatedly. The cameras didn't show intimacy, but they showed pattern. I'm coming up this weekend, she announced. Bringing mother. And Alessandra. Alessandra Moreau, French heiress, old family friend. The woman Victoria had been pushing toward Isaac for 2 years. Elegant. Appropriate. Photogenic. Isaac's stomach turned. Don't bring Alessandra. Why not? Because I'm seeing someone. Silence on the line. Then, who? That's private. Private doesn't exist when you're Isaac Langford. If it's serious, we need to know. If it's not, we need to manage expectations. Told Susanna that evening while they sat on the library rug. Same spot they'd first really talked. My cousin is coming. With my mother. And someone they want me to meet. Susanna went still. Someone appropriate. Yes. She looked down at their joined hands. Are you going to meet her? No. Then why are they bringing her? Because they think I need saving from myself. She exhaled slowly. I'm the maid, Isaac. They're not going to like this. I don't care. You will when they start talking about optics. Reputation. The board. The press. He cupped her face. Let them talk. It's easy to say that now. It's easy because it's true. She searched his eyes. I don't want to be the reason your family turns on you. You're the reason I finally feel like I have one worth keeping. Tears welled. She blinked them back. Okay, she whispered. But we do this together. No hiding. No pretending I'm just staff when they're here. Deal. Victoria arrived Friday evening. Mother Saturday morning. Alessandra Saturday afternoon, in a cream silk dress and heels that clicked like judgment across marble. Dinner was set in the formal dining room. Long table, crystal, silver, 3 extra place settings. Susanna served. She wore her uniform. But when she set the soup in front of Isaac, her fingers brushed his wrist. Deliberate, secret, he caught her hand under the table for half a second. Squeezed. Victoria noticed. Mother noticed. Alessandra smiled. Tight, polite. Conversation stayed surface level until dessert. Then Victoria leaned forward. So, Isaac, we hear you've been spending more time at home. Yes. Anyone special? He looked straight at Susanna, standing near the sideboard, hands clasped, chin high. Yes. Victoria followed his gaze. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Mother set her fork down. Alessandra's smile froze. Susanna didn't flinch. Isaac stood. Everyone, this is Susanna Reyes. She's been here 6 months. She's brilliant, kind, and the only person in this house who's ever treated me like a human being instead of a bank account. I'm in love with her. Victoria choked on her wine. Mother stared. Alessandra stood, slowly. I think I'll take my leave. She walked out. Victoria followed, hissing something about damage control. Mother stayed. She looked at Susanna. Really looked. Then at Isaac. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Mother exhaled. Then I suppose I should get to know her. She turned to Susanna. Will you sit with me tomorrow morning? Coffee. No staff. Just us. Susanna nodded, voice steady. I'd like that. Mother left. Isaac crossed to Susanna. Pulled her into his arms. Right there in the dining room. You okay? He whispered. She nodded against his chest. Terrified, but okay. He kissed her temple. We're okay. But the tension wasn't gone. Because Victoria didn't leave quietly. BY Monday morning. Anonymous tips had reached 2 tabloids. Reclusive billionaire's secret romance with the help? Grainy photos, him and Susanna walking the grounds hand in hand. The board called an emergency meeting. Victoria texted. You have 72 hours to decide what matters more, her or the company. Isaac stared at the message, then deleted it. He found Susanna in the kitchen, making tea, hands shaking just a little. He took the kettle from her, set it down, pulled her close. We're not hiding anymore, he said. She looked up, eyes shining. What if they take everything? Then we'll build something new. Together. She laughed. Shaky. Disbelieving. You're insane. I'm in love. She rose on her toes. Kissed him. Slow. Deep. Certain. When they parted she whispered. Then let's be insane together. Outside. Thunder rumbled again. Distant warning. But inside the mansion, 2 people finally stopped running. And started building. If the family dinner confrontation, the hand squeeze under the table, the public declaration, or that defiant, I'm in love with her moment gave you chills. Drop your honest reaction in the comments below. What would you have said if you were Susanna in that room? Did the tension feel suffocating or satisfying? The storm that had been building since the tabloid photos leaked finally broke on a gray Saturday morning in mid-September. Isaac woke to 3 missed calls from his chief legal officer, 4 from Victoria, and a single text from the board chairman. Emergency session at 10 a.m. virtual. Be there, or we vote without you. He stared at the screen for 37 seconds, then powered it off. Downstairs, Susanna was already in the kitchen. Coffee brewing, the scent of fresh cinnamon rolls rising from the oven. She wore soft jeans and one of his old MIT hoodies she'd claimed weeks ago. No uniform, no pretense. She turned when he entered. You look like someone just handed you a grenade. Close enough. He set the phone face down on the island. The board wants me on a call in 40 minutes. They're going to demand I clarify my personal situation. Translation. End this or lose control of the company I built. Susanna's hand stilled on the coffee pot. She poured 2 mugs anyway, set one in front of him, sat across the island. Close enough their knees almost touched under the overhang. What do you want to do? He looked at her, really looked. the faint freckles across her nose, the way her eyes held steady even when fear flickered behind them, the hoodie sleeve that slipped down to reveal the thin silver bracelet she always wore, her mother's, the only piece of jewelry she owned. "I want to tell them to go to hell," he said quietly. "But if I do, they'll call an emergency shareholder vote. They have the proxies lined up. I could lose majority control by Monday." She exhaled slowly. "And if you tell them what they want to hear? I keep the company. I keep the power. I lose you." She reached across the marble and covered his hand with hers. "You won't lose me. Not if you choose honestly." He turned his palm up, laced their fingers. "I've spent my entire adult life thinking power was the only thing that couldn't leave me. Turns out it's the only thing that ever did." She squeezed his hand. "Then let it go." He stared at their joined hands. "I don't know how to be a man without it." "You already are," she whispered. "Every time you dry dishes beside me. Every time you laugh at my terrible jokes. Every time you look at me like I'm the only person in the room. That's you. Not the title. Not the billions. Just you." His throat worked. "I'm scared. I know. I'm terrified I'll drag you into a war you didn't sign up for." She stood, walked around the island, slid onto the stool beside him, turned his face toward hers with gentle fingers on his jaw. "Then we fight together, or we walk away together. But we don't let them decide what we are." He closed his eyes, pressed his forehead to hers. "I love you," he said low, raw, like the words had been locked behind steel for years. "I love you too," she answered. "And I'm not afraid of losing a mansion. I'm afraid of losing this." She tapped 2 fingers over his heart. The oven timer beeped, soft, insistent. She didn't move. Neither did he. 9:58 a.m. He opened his laptop on the kitchen island. Joined the Zoom call. 12 faces appeared. Suits, stern expressions. The boardroom backdrop of Langford Dynamics headquarters in Stanford. The chairman spoke first. "Isaac, we've seen the coverage. We've received calls from major investors. The optics are problematic. We need clarity on your relationship with Ms. Reyes." Isaac looked straight into the camera. "Her name is Susanna. And yes, she's the woman in the photos. Yes, we're together. Yes, it's serious. And no, I will not be ending it to satisfy anyone's idea of appropriate." A ripple of murmurs. Victoria, on screen from her Manhattan office, leaned forward. "Isaac, this isn't personal. It's business. The stock dipped 4% yesterday. We're talking billions in market cap. You're the face of this company. People buy because they trust your judgment. My judgment is telling me that a life spent pretending to be someone I'm not is worth less than zero." The chairman cleared his throat. "We're prepared to call a special meeting of shareholders if necessary. You own 42%. We control the rest through proxies and alliances. Think carefully." Isaac exhaled. "I have." He reached sideways. Off camera, that Susanna's hand appeared in frame. Slender fingers sliding into his. He brought their joined hands into view. "This is Susanna. She's sitting right beside me. She's not going anywhere. And neither am I." Dead silence on the call. Then Victoria. "You're throwing away everything we built." "No." Isaac cut in. "I'm choosing what actually matters. The company will survive without me at the helm every day. I won't survive without her." The chairman's voice hardened. "You understand the consequences?" "I do." "Then we'll proceed accordingly." The call ended, screen went black. Isaac closed the laptop. Silence filled the kitchen. Thicker than any before. Susanna turned his face toward hers. "You okay?" "No," he gave a shaky laugh. "But I will be." She kissed him, soft at first, then deeper. A kiss that said, "We're in this." A kiss that tasted like cinnamon and courage and the future they were about to fight for. They spent the afternoon in the library. Same rug, same lamp. He explained the likely moves. Proxy battles, poison pill defenses he could trigger, lawsuits if they tried a hostile ouster. She listened, asked sharp questions, suggested things he hadn't considered, public statements, employee town halls, leaning on the people who actually built the company day to day. You're good at this, he said, half amazed. I read a lot of business books while cleaning offices at night. Figured knowledge was the only thing nobody could take away. He pulled her onto his lap. You're brilliant. You're finally noticing. They laughed, real, ragged laughter. Then his phone rang again. Private number, he answered on speaker. Victoria's voice. Cold, furious. You just lit your entire legacy on fire. Maybe it needed burning. You think she's worth it? I know she is. A long pause, then quieter. Mother's on her way to the house. She wants to talk to Susanna. Alone. Before anything else happens. Isaac looked at Susanna. She nodded. Tell her we'll be here. Victoria hung up. Today an hour later. Margaret Langford arrived and no driver. No entourage. Just her. Silver hair in a neat chignon navy coat. Eyes the same storm gray as her son's. Susanna met her at the door. Mrs. Langford. Margaret, please. She stepped inside. Looked around, not at the grandeur, but at the small signs of life. A half-read book on the coffee table, 2 mugs still warm on the side table, the faint scent of cinnamon lingering. They walked to the conservatory. Sat on the wicker settee among the orchids. Margaret spoke first. I left Isaac's father because I couldn't breathe in this house. Too much silence. Too much ambition. I thought leaving would save me. Didn't. It just made me lonely in a different zip code. Susanna listened. I see the way he looks at you, Margaret continued. Like your oxygen after years underwater. I've never seen that look on his face. Not once. Susanna's voice was steady. I love him. Not the money. Not the name. Him. Margaret studied her. And if the money disappears? If the name becomes a punchline? Then we'll figure out who we are without it. Margaret exhaled. I believe you. She reached into her coat pocket. Pulled out a small velvet pouch. My mother's wedding ring. Simple gold band. No diamond. She gave it to me the day I married beneath my station. I never wore it after the divorce. I want you to have it, if you'll accept it someday. Susanna's eyes filled. Thank you. Margaret stood. Tell my son I'm proud of him. For once. She left. Susanna stayed in the conservatory a long time. Ring pouch in her hand, until Isaac found her. He knelt in front of her. What did she say? Susanna opened the pouch. Showed him the ring. She gave me this, and she said she's proud of you. Isaac stared at the simple gold band. Then at Susanna. Tears, rare, unguarded, slipped down his cheeks. She wiped them away with her thumbs. Hey, she whispered. We're okay. He pulled her into his arms. Crushing, desperate. I almost lost everything today. You didn't lose me. He pulled back. Looked at her. Really looked. Marry me. She blinked. Now? Not now. Soon. When the dust settles. When we know exactly what we're walking into. But I want you to know. I'm choosing forever. Right here. Right now. She laughed. Soft. Teary. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. He kissed her. Slow. Reverent. Full of every promise he'd never known how to make before. Outside. The sky had cleared. Sunlight slanted through the glass roof. Golden warm. Inside the conservatory, 2 people who had once believed love was a luxury they couldn't afford finally claimed it. Not as employer and maid. Not as billionaire and servant. As Isaac and Susanna. Equals. Lovers. Partners. And for the first time in either of their lives, the future didn't feel like a threat. It felt like home. If that boardroom showdown, the hand in frame, the mother's ring, the raw marry me in the conservatory. If any of it wrecked you, moved you, made you cheer, tell me in the comments below. The weeks that followed the boardroom ultimatum felt like walking through fog after a thunderstorm. Everything still damp, still electric, but the sky finally wide and clear. Isaac did not lose the company. Not entirely. The special shareholder meeting happened exactly as threatened 3 weeks later, in a glass-walled conference room in Stamford that smelled of fresh coffee and old power. He arrived alone. No lawyers flanking him. No PR team. Just him in a charcoal sweater and dark jeans. The same ones he'd worn the morning he told Susanna he loved her over cinnamon rolls. Susanna waited in the car outside, not because he asked her to hide, because she said, "This part is yours to finish. I'll be right here when you walk out." He walked in, sat at the head of the long table, looked at the 12 faces, some angry, some calculating, too quietly curious. The chairman opened with prepared remarks about fiduciary duty, brand risk, long-term shareholder value. Isaac listened for exactly 90 seconds. Then he stood. "I've spent 20 years building this company on the belief that control equals safety. That if I held every lever tight enough, nothing could hurt me again. Turns out I was wrong." He placed both hands flat on the table. "I'm stepping down as CEO, effective immediately. I will retain my board seat and my 42% stake. I will not sell. I will not fight you for daily operations. But I will veto any move that guts what we've built. The culture, the people, the innovation that actually matters. If you want a war, you'll have one. If you want peace, let me walk out of here with my conscience intact." Silence thicker than marble. Victoria, seated third from the left, spoke first. "You're serious? Deadly." The chairman exhaled through his nose. "We'll need 48 hours to draft transition terms. You have 24. Isaac walked out, no dramatic flourish. No slamming doors, just steady footsteps down the corridor, past security who suddenly didn't know whether to salute or stare, out the glass doors into October sunlight that felt brand new. Susanna was leaning against the passenger door of the Range Rover, arms crossed, watching him approach. He stopped 3 feet away. "I'm unemployed." She tilted her head. "Technically still disgustingly rich." "True." She smiled, slow, proud, a little teary. "You okay?" He stepped into her space, cupped her face with both hands. "I've never been better." She rose on her toes and kissed him. Right there in the executive parking lot, under the watchful eyes of tinted windows and security cameras that no longer reported to him. They drove home in comfortable quiet. The mansion no longer felt like a mausoleum, it felt like a house waiting to become a home. Over the next months, change arrived in small, deliberate waves. Isaac kept his word. He didn't micromanage from afar. He attended quarterly board meetings via video from the library. He approved major strategy shifts only when asked. The stock dipped another 2% after the announcement, then stabilized, then climbed. Turns out a founder who chooses humanity over ego is good PR after all. He started sleeping in past 5 a.m. He started cooking breakfast, badly at first. Burnt edges on eggs. Pancakes that looked like abstract art. Susanna never complained. She just kissed the corner of his mouth and said, "Next time less heat." They traveled. Not in private jets to boardrooms, to an economy, to places that mattered. A week in Manila so Susanna could introduce him to her grandmother. Tiny, fierce Lola Nina, who pinched his cheeks, called him "that tall boy," and fed him adobo until he begged for mercy. Lola Nina gave him her blessing in Tagalog. Susanna translated with tears in her eyes. She says you're allowed to love her granddaughter, but if you ever make her cry sad tears, she has a machete older than you are. Isaac laughed until his sides hurt. They spent Christmas in a small rented cabin in Vermont, with stove, no staff, just them. Snow outside, fire inside. Susanna taught him how to make lumpia from memory. He taught her how to stargaze without checking his phone. New Year's Eve they stayed home. No party. No gala. Just the two of them on the library rug. Same spot, same lamp. Counting down on an old radio that still picked up M stations. At midnight he kissed her like it was the first time. Then he pulled back. "I have something for you." He reached behind a cushion at a small velvet box. Not the one from Margaret. This one held 2 platinum bands. Simple, matching, engraved inside with the date of that first thunderstorm kiss. "These aren't engagement rings," he said. "They're promise rings. Until we're ready for the real thing. No pressure. No timeline. Just, I want you to wear mine. And I want to wear yours." Susanna's hands shook as she took the box. She slid his band onto his left ring finger first, then let him slide hers on. They fit perfectly. She looked at the engraving, .8.17.25. The night the lights went out and we turned on, she laughed, soft, watery. You remembered the date. I remember every second. They kissed again. Slow, deep, full of years they hadn't lived yet. Spring came with it. Plans? Susanna had always dreamed of opening a small community kitchen. Free meals for families in transition. Cooking classes for kids who didn't learn at home. A place where people could feel fed in more ways than one. Isaac didn't offer to fund it. He asked how he could help. They found a storefront in Jersey City. Not glamorous, but solid. Brick walls. Big windows. Room for long tables. He rolled up his sleeves. Painted. Carried boxes. Learned how to grout tile badly. Laughed when she teased him about being a billionaire with grout under his fingernails. Opening day was quiet. No press. No ribbon. Just neighbors. Kids from the shelter Susanna used to volunteer at. Lola Nina flew in, machete jokes intact. Isaac stood at the back, watching Susanna move through the room, hugging people, handing out plates, laughing with a little girl who asked if she could be a chef when she grew up. Susanna caught his eye across the crowd. She mouthed, "Thank you." He shook his head. Mouthed back, "Thank you." That night they sat on the roof of their new brownstone in Brooklyn. He'd sold the Connecticut estate, kept only what fit in 2 moving trucks, and watched the Manhattan skyline glitter. She leaned against his shoulder. "Still believe you made the right choice?" He kissed the top of her head. Every single day. Summer arrived again. One Saturday morning in July, exactly 1 year after that first shared dinner at the island. Isaac woke early. Susanna was still asleep, curled against his side, hair spilling across the pillow. He slipped out of bed quietly, returned 20 minutes later with a tray. Coffee, fresh mango sliced the way she liked, a single white daisy tucked beside the mug. He set it on the nightstand, kneeled beside the bed, waited until her eyes fluttered open. She smiled, sleepy, soft. Morning, morning. She saw the tray, the daisy, then she saw him on one knee, holding nothing but her gaze. "Susanna Reyes," he said, voice steady but thick with emotion. "I spent most of my life thinking love was a transaction I couldn't afford to lose. Then you walked into my house with a mop and a heart bigger than any room I'd ever built. You saw me when I was invisible to myself. You stayed when everyone else left. You taught me that home isn't a place. It's a person." He reached under the pillow, pulled out Margaret's gold band, now resized, polished, paired with a thin diamond eternity band he'd made to match. "I promised you forever that day in the conservatory. I'm asking you to make it official. Marry me, not because of money, not because of status. Marry me because I can't imagine another sunrise without you beside me." Tears slipped down her cheeks. She sat up, cupped his face. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, laughing through tears. "Yes, 1,000 mornings from now, yes." He slid both rings onto her finger. They fit like they'd always belonged there. She pulled him onto the bed. They kissed, slow, laughing, crying, tangled in sheets and sunlight. Later, much later, they lay wrapped around each other. She traced the band on his finger. "Mrs. Langford," she tested softly. "Or Reyes Langford," he countered. "Or whatever you want. The name doesn't matter. The person does." She smiled against his chest. "I want both. I want everything. Then you'll have it." Outside, the city hummed. Alive, ordinary, beautiful. Inside, 2 people who had once believed they were invisible to love finally saw each other clearly, and chose each other. Every single day. 2 years later, late June, the community kitchen in Jersey City had doubled in size. Long tables filled every Saturday. Kids painted murals on the walls. Lola Nina taught adobo workshops. Susanna ran cooking classes with the confidence of someone who had finally found her place. Isaac taught basic coding to teenagers who reminded him of himself at 16, hungry, brilliant, overlooked. He never mentioned his past titles. He just showed up, with snacks, with patience, with pride. When a girl named Mia built her first app and cried when it worked out on a warm Saturday evening, they closed early, locked the door, walked the 3 blocks to their brownstone hand in hand. Upstairs, in the nursery, they painted pale yellow last month. A crib sat waiting. empty for now but full of promise. They'd started the adoption process 6 months earlier. The caseworker had called that morning. A baby girl, 3 weeks old, ready for a forever home. They stood in the doorway. Susanna rested her head on his shoulder. "She'll be here soon." He kissed her temple. "She already is." They moved to the living room, sat on the couch. The same one from the old mansion, reupholstered in soft gray because Susanna said it held too many good memories to let go. He pulled her feet into his lap, rubbed slow circles on her arches. She sighed. "Content? Safe? Isaac? Do you ever miss it? The empire? The power?" He looked at her, really looked. "I miss nothing that didn't have you in it." She smiled, leaned forward, kissed him, gentle, lingering. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you more." Outside, the city lights came on one by one. Inside, 2 hearts beat in perfect time. They had built something better than wealth. They had built a life, a family, a love that started in silence, grew in storms, and now, finally, rested in peace, and it was more than enough. If this journey, from cold marble halls to warm Brooklyn nights, from just his maid to forever partners, left your heart full, please share one feeling, one favorite moment, or one line that stayed with you in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.